A 62-year-old man once walked into my office with what he described as a little chest discomfort. Nothing dramatic. No crushing pain. No shortness of breath. Just a mild pressure that came and went after meals. He was convinced it was indigestion from dinner the night before. He almost didn't come in at all. 2 weeks later, that same man was lying in an intensive care unit, connected to machines, fighting for his life after a massive heart attack. This story isn't rare. It isn't unusual. It happens every single day in hospitals across America. And here's the part that still makes me angry after all these years. Up to 80% of heart attacks are preventable. Not with emergency surgeries. Not with lifelong medications. Not with expensive procedures. But with food. 7 specific foods. To be exact, foods that don't just support heart health, but actively rewire your cardiovascular system from the inside out. I've spent more than 15 years studying cardiac nutrition, analyzing long-term outcome data, and working with older adults who were told their condition was just part of aging. What I discovered challenges nearly everything the pharmaceutical industry has taught us about heart disease. Today, I am going to reveal the exact 7 foods shown to reduce heart attack risk by up to 76%. And I'll explain exactly how much to eat, when to eat it, and why it works at the cellular level. But before we talk about protection, you need to understand something far more important. Your heart may already be in danger even if you feel perfectly fine. Pause for a moment. Here is the terrifying truth about heart disease after 60. Your arteries are aging faster than you realize. Every single day after your 60th birthday, the endothelial cells, the delicate inner lining of your blood vessels, become slightly less flexible, more inflamed, and more vulnerable to plaque buildup. This doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't announce itself with pain. It progresses silently, slowly, and relentlessly. By the time you feel chest pain, shortness of breath, or that heavy pressure in your chest, you're not catching it early. You're already deep in the danger zone. A major study published in the American Journal of Cardiology followed 4,800 adults over the age of 64 12 years. What they found shocked even seasoned cardiologists. 67% of participants had significant arterial blockage without experiencing a single symptom. No warning signs. No red flags. Just silent plaque accumulation, waiting for the right moment to trigger catastrophe. Think about a typical day. You wake up a little stiff, maybe more tired than you used to be. You drink your coffee, eat your usual breakfast, go about your routine. Everything feels normal. But inside your chest, your coronary arteries are narrowing. Blood flow to your heart muscle is slowly being restricted. Your heart compensates by working harder, pumping blood through pathways that are becoming tighter by the day. You don't feel it because the damage happens gradually until suddenly it doesn't. On a cellular level, here's what's really happening. When you eat the wrong foods, processed carbohydrates, excessive sugar, inflammatory seed oils, your blood glucose spikes. That spike triggers an inflammatory cascade that damages the arterial lining. Your body responds by sending cholesterol to patch the damage, much like placing a bandage over a wound. But when this happens repeatedly, day after day, meal after meal, those patches accumulate. They harden, they calcify, and eventually they rupture, forming a clot that completely blocks blood flow to your heart. That is a heart attack. The medical establishment often presents one solution: lifelong medication, statins, blood pressure drugs, daily aspirin. And while these have their place, there's a critical truth rarely emphasized. Food is medicine, and the right foods don't just manage numbers on a lab report, they correct the underlying damage. Let's start with the first and arguably most important heart protective food. Food number 1, fatty fish. Fatty fish isn't just good for your heart, it's essential. We're talking about salmon mackerel, sardines, and herring fish rich in omega-3 fatty acids known as EPA and DAA. These compounds don't merely circulate in your blood, they become part of your cells. Omega-3, South, integrate directly into the membranes of your heart, muscle, and blood vessels, making them more flexible and responsive. They reduce inflammation by blocking inflammatory signaling molecules, lower triglycerides by up to 30%, reduce blood pressure by an average of 4 to 5 mmHg, and significantly reduce the risk of dangerous clot formation. A landmark study published in JAMA followed 2,600 adults over 65 for 14 years. Those who ate fatty fish just 3 times per week had a 47% lower risk of heart attack compared to those who rarely ate fish. Nearly half the risk eliminated with food, but dosage matters. You need approximately 1,000 milligrams of combined EPA and DHA daily. That translates to about 4 ounces of wild-caught salmon 3 times per week, or 1 can of sardines 5 times per week. Wild-caught fish is critical. Farm-raised varieties often contain inflammatory omega-6 fats and environmental contaminants that blunt the benefits. Preparation should be simple. Baked with lemon and herbs, grilled with olive oil, or eaten straight from the can. In the case of one 67-year-old patient with dangerously high triglycerides began eating salmon 4 times per week. 8 weeks later, her triglyceride levels dropped by 140 points with no medication changes. Her cardiologist was stunned. And this is just the beginning, because the next food works synergistically with omega-3 South to amplify their protective effect. Food number 2. Raw nuts, walnuts, and almonds. Nuts have been unfairly demonized for decades. Too much fat? Too many calories? Bad for the heart? That belief couldn't be more wrong. Walnuts contain alpha-linoleic acid, a plant-based omega-3 that improves arterial flexibility and endothelial function. Almonds are rich in vitamin E, magnesium, and arginine, amino acid your body converts into nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is the master regulator of blood pressure. It tells your blood vessels to relax, widen, and allow blood to flow freely. After age 60, nitric oxide production can decline by up to 75%, which is why blood pressure often rises with age. Almonds help restore that pathway. In a Penn State study, adults over 68 just 1.5 ounces of almonds daily for 6 weeks. LDL cholesterol dropped 7%. Inflammatory markers fell 13%. Blood vessel function improved 19%. That's the power of a small handful of nuts. Your daily target: 1 ounce of raw, unsalted walnuts, 1 ounce of raw, unsalted almonds. Never eat nuts roasted in seed oils. Store them in the refrigerator to protect their delicate fats. People who eat nuts 5 or more times per week have a 29% lower risk of dying from heart disease. Nuts, just fewer heart attacks, but longer life. Now, let's move to a food that quietly protects your arteries every single day. Food number 3. Extra virgin olive oil, not the cheap kind in clear plastic bottles. Real extra virgin olive oil comes in dark glass, tastes slightly bitter and peppery, and contains a compound called oleocanthal, a natural anti-inflammatory with effects similar to ibuprofen. Researchers discovered that about 50 milliliters of high-quality olive oil 3.5 tablespoons produces anti-inflammatory effects comparable to 10% of an adult dose of ibuprofen, without side effects. Olive oil replaces inflammatory fats with stable monounsaturated fats and delivers powerful antioxidants that prevent LDL cholesterol from oxidizing, the critical step that turns cholesterol from harmless to dangerous. The famous PARADIGM trial followed over 7,400 high-risk individuals for nearly 5 years. Those consuming about 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil daily experienced a 30% reduction in heart attacks, strokes, and cardiovascular deaths. This study was so impactful, it changed global prevention guidelines. Use olive oil daily. 1 tablespoon on an empty stomach in the morning. 2 to 3 tablespoons for cooking and dressings. Never heat above medium temperature. Quality matters more than quantity. At this point, we've covered 3 foods that directly reduce inflammation, stabilize arteries, and restore blood vessel function. But the next food takes vascular flexibility to an entirely new level, and most people already have it in their kitchen. Continue. All right, here's part 2. Rewritten, expanded, and completed cleanly. I'll stop at a natural endpoint again, and then ask before continuing. Part 2. Rewritten script. The next food may look small and harmless, but its impact on your cardiovascular system is enormous. Food number 4. Berries, blueberries, strawberries, blackberries, and raspberries aren't just fruit. They are one of the most powerful vascular protective foods ever studied. Their deep red, purple, and blue colors come from compounds called anthocyanins. These compounds directly activate an enzyme known as inosinophilial nitric oxide. This enzyme produces nitric oxide, the molecule that tells your blood vessels to relax, widen, and allow smooth blood flow. But that's only part of the story. Anthocyanins also neutralize free radicals inside your arteries. Free radicals damage cells, stiffen vessel walls, and accelerate aging. When oxidative stress builds up in your arteries, plaque becomes unstable and more likely to rupture. Berries interrupt this process at its source. A massive Harvard study followed 93,000 women for 18 years. The researchers found that women who ate 3 or more servings of blueberries and strawberries per week had a 32% lower risk of heart attack compared to those who ate berries less than once a month. 1/3 lower risk just from berries. Here's why this matters after 60. As arteries age, they become stiff and brittle. Stiff arteries cannot adapt to changes in blood pressure. Flexible arteries can. Berries restore elasticity, allowing your cardiovascular system to respond safely to physical and emotional stress. Your target is simple. 1 cup of berries every day, fresh or frozen. Both work. Frozen berries are often harvested at peak ripeness and flash frozen, preserving nutrients. Add them to oatmeal, blend them into smoothies, or eat them as a snack. The natural sugars in berries are paired with fiber, preventing blood sugar spikes that damage arteries. Unlike desserts that stress your heart, berries actively heal it. Now let's talk about a food group surrounded by controversy but strongly supported by science. Food number 5. Whole grains, oats, quinoa, brown rice, refined grains are harmful. Whole grains are not. Whole grains contain the bran, germ, and endosperm providing fiber, magnesium, antioxidants, and B vitamins that refined grains lack entirely. The most important compound here is soluble fiber, especially beta-glucan found in oats. Soluble fiber binds to bile acids in your intestines, forcing your liver to pull cholesterol out of your bloodstream to make more bile. This directly lowers LDL cholesterol. A major meta-analysis in the British Medical Journal reviewed 45 studies involving over 800,000 people. Those who ate 3 servings of whole grains daily had a 22% lower risk of heart disease. 3 servings is achievable. 1.5 cups cooked oatmeal, 1 cup cooked quinoa, or 2 slices of 100% whole grain bread. Timing matters. Eat whole grains earlier in the day when insulin sensitivity is highest. Breakfast and lunch are ideal. Late-day carbohydrates can interfere with metabolic recovery during sleep. A powerful example, a 64-year-old man with persistently high LDL cholesterol, despite statins, added daily oatmeal to his breakfast. 3 months later, his LDL dropped another 23 points, enough for his doctor to lower his medication dose. Food didn't replace medicine. Timing and combination matter just as much as the foods themselves. You can eat the right foods and still miss their full protective power if you eat them randomly, inconsistently, or in isolation. The cardiovascular system responds best when nutrients arrive together, supporting and amplifying each other's effects. Let me show you how to structure your day so these 7 foods work synergistically, not separately. The heart protective daily structures start every morning with a breakfast that stabilizes blood sugar and reduces inflammation for the entire day. A bowl of steel-cut oats topped with blueberries or strawberries, raw walnuts, and a teaspoon of extra virgin olive oil. In one meal, you've activated nitric oxide production, lowered LDL cholesterol, and suppressed arterial inflammation. This combination prevents the glucose spikes that damage the endothelial lining of your arteries first thing in the morning. For lunch, build a large salad knot, a side salad, but a full meal. Use spinach or arugula as your base. Add chickpeas or lentils, sliced almonds, berries, and an olive oil based. Dressing this single meal delivers fiber, nitrates, antioxidants, and healthy fats in a form your body can absorb efficiently. The iron in leafy greens becomes more bioavailable when eaten with vitamin C from berries. The fiber in legumes enhances cholesterol removal. The fats in olive oil improve absorption of fat-soluble, and dinner should be lighter, focused on repair rather than fuel. A serving of fatty fish like salmon or sardines paired with sautéed Swiss chard or kale in olive oil and a small portion of quinoa or brown rice. Omega-3 fatty acids integrate into your arterial walls overnight, reducing inflammation and improving vascular elasticity while you sleep. Keeping carbohydrates modest at dinner supports overnight metabolic recovery and better blood sugar control. This isn't complicated. It's deliberate. Why? Consistency beats everything. Here's the mistake that ruins results for most people. Intensity without consistency. Eating these foods once or twice a week won't protect your heart. The biological effects, especially nitric oxide production and inflammation reduction, they require daily reinforcement. But here's the good news. After about 30 days, your body adapts. Cravings shift. Energy improves. Brain fog clears. Sleep deepens. These foods stop feeling like effort and start feeling natural. Your body learns what safety feels like. Over time, blood pressure stabilizes. Cholesterol profiles improve. Arterial stiffness decreases. And most importantly, plaque becomes less inflamed and less likely to rupture. That's how heart attacks are prevented, not by masking risk, but by removing it. The 7 foods. One final time, let's summarize, because this information can genuinely save your life. Fatty fish 3 times per week for OME, GA3 South, that reduce inflammation and prevent clot formation. Raw walnuts and almonds daily to restore nitric oxide and protect arteries. Extra virgin olive oil every day to block inflammation and prevent cholesterol oxidation. Berries daily to improve arterial flexibility and neutralize oxidative stress. Whole grains earlier in the day to lower LDL cholesterol through soluble fiber. Dark leafy greens daily for natural nitrates and calcium regulation. Legumes every day for fiber. Plant protein and long-term cardiovascular resilience. Eaten consistently and strategically. These 7 foods can reduce your risk of heart attack by up to 76%. That's not a marketing claim. That's what the data shows. A final word, don't wait for chest pain. Don't wait for a frightening diagnosis. Don't wait for a wake-up call that arrives too late. You already have the knowledge. You already have access to the foods. The only step left is action. Start today. One meal at a time. When you protect your heart, you don't just add years to your life, you add life to your years. Your heart has been working for you every second since the day you were born. Now it's your turn to work for it.